Imagine this, a new world brimming with untapped potential. The year is 1587, and over 100 English settlers arrive on Roanoke Island, eager to explore. Just 3 years later, they vanish without a trace. Welcome to one of history's greatest mysteries, the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Roanoke was one of England's first attempts at establishing a permanent colony in the Americas, led by Governor John White. Among the settlers were men, women, and children, along with White's granddaughter, Virginia Dare. She became the first English child to be born in the New World. Landing on Roanoke Island in 1587 must have felt like stepping into another world entirely. Towering trees, dense forests, and the calls of unfamiliar animals surrounded the settlers. The land was rich and untamed, truly filled with promise, but also peril. The settlers, reinvigorated after their long sea voyage, got to work quickly. They began building simple wooden homes and fortifying the settlement. For many, this was a chance at a new life, a fresh start away from England's overcrowded cities and rigid class system. Although the land was new to them and seemed undisturbed, they weren't alone. The nearby Croatoan tribe initially helped the settlers, but relations were delicate. Misunderstandings and cultural differences often led to tension. Besides the local inhabitants, there were also natural challenges. The New World's climate was unpredictable. Harsh storms, blistering heat, and failed crops were constant threats. Supplies from England were supposed to keep them going, but delays made survival all the more uncertain. The settlers pressed on, though dreaming of creating a thriving colony. Underneath their hopes lie an uneasy reality. They were isolated, unprepared, and thousands of miles away from help. Not long after their arrival, John White returned to England to gather the supplies they so desperately needed. What was meant to be a relatively quick trip to return with food, tools, and reinforcements turned into a 3-year absence. White was delayed due to the war with England and Spain. The Spanish Armada was preparing to invade, and every available ship was conscripted for England's defense. Queen Elizabeth I declared that no vessels could be spared for non-military missions, leaving the settlers in the New World essentially abandoned. For 2 long years, White lobbied tirelessly to return to Roanoke. By 1589, the Armada was defeated, but the country's resources were drained. Securing a ship to return to the settlers had become nearly impossible. Finally, in 1590, White secured passage on a privateer vessel, a ship more suited for raiding than rescue missions. It was a risky and uncomfortable voyage, but White was desperate to reach the colony and ensure his family's safety. White, after years of restlessly waiting to return, made it back to Roanoke Island. Upon his arrival, he was met with confusion and perhaps feeling disheartened. What he expected to be a perhaps established colony was nothing more than nothing. All he found upon his arrival was this cryptic clue, the word Croatoan carved on a tree. It was the name of the nearby island and the Native American tribe. On a neighboring tree were the letters CRO, also carved into the wood, but there was no sign of the roughly 115 colonists he had arrived to the island with initially. No bodies were found, no signs of struggle, nothing. So what happened to the settlers during those 3 years? To this day, the truth remains elusive. Over time, several theories have emerged, each offering a possible explanation, but none providing definitive answers. Let's explore some of the most compelling theories as to the disappearance of the colonists. One of the most popular theories is that the settlers sought help from nearby Croatoan tribe. With dwindling supplies and no sign of White's return, they may have moved to Croatoan Island, now known as Hatteras Island, and assimilated with the tribe. Archaeological evidence, including European-style tools and pottery found in the area, supports this idea. Yet, this theory remains unproven. According to a PBS article published in 2020, There's compelling evidence that the settlers moved to a site along Salmon Creek. The First Colony Foundation calls the location Site Y. The remnants of everyday life are similar to another location named Site X. Based on the findings at these sites, the First Colony Foundation seems to have found evidence that a small number of the colonists moved away from the island they had originally landed on. Researchers also determined that what they had found was perhaps from a small group of colonists. It's not unlikely that one group may have gone up the Chesapeake, says Mark Horton, a professor and archaeologist from England's University of Bristol. I'm pretty confident one group at least, probably the pretty substantial part, came out to Hatteras Island. Harsh conditions, failed crops, and limited resources could have led to starvation or the spread of disease. It's possible the settlers didn't survive long enough for White to return. Although, if this were the case, one would think bodies and perhaps burials would be found. Now, for some of the supernatural theories. Some legends claim that the settlers were cursed by local tribes. These tales often point to spiritual retaliation for the colonists landing on sacred land. The curse, according to the stories, caused the settlers to vanish or be consumed by the land itself, leaving no trace behind. If they had fallen to witchcraft, some speculate the colony may have been haunted, driving the settlers to madness or forcing them to flee. Another theory ventures far beyond Earth. Could the settlers have been abducted by extraterrestrials? Proponents of this idea cite the lack of evidence for conflict or disease, and the complete disappearance of over 100 people as possible signs of a close encounter. Legends of mysterious creatures, perhaps wendigos, skinwalkers, or other beings from native folklore, have also been tied to this story. Did the settlers disturb something they shouldn't have? Some suggest they were hunted or taken by entities lurking in the wilderness. These supernatural theories might sound far-fetched, but they highlight just how deeply the mystery of Roanoke has captured our imagination. Were the settlers victims of nature, history, or something far stranger? The truth remains as elusive as ever. Over 4 centuries later, the fate of the Roanoke settlers remains a mystery. Let me know your theories in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.